Hello everyone, and welcome back to another figure review. Today we're taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Vegeta, old style battle clothes. God awful name aside, this should technically be our last Vegeta from the Namek saga, unless Mata Okamoto has one more version of Vegeta up his sleeve that he hasn't shared with us yet before he moves on and a new product planner is put in his place. Now, this Vegeta here has been a bit controversial. Lots of folks saying that no one asked for this, with the die-hard Namek saga fans praising Tamashii for delivering another figure that they thought they'd never see. But for me, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I'm not really feeling this figure. Typically, I wait till the end of the video to give you my thoughts, but I have some issues with the figure that I find a little frustrating that if you stick around for, I'll go into more detail about. So with that said, let's get into the review. Starting with the packaging, we have an image of Vegeta adjusting his gloves like he just got done putting on the outfit. We have some manga style handling in the background that is done in a navy blue color that complements Vegeta's darker color scheme nicely. The right side of the box continues that paneling from the front and shows off some more of Vegeta's expressions, including that crying face. Here's a look at the back side of the box, which gives us a look at what all comes bundled with Vegeta, and of course, they had to show him off in action poses with Jace and First Form Frieza. Tamashii could be a bit of a tease sometimes. Here's a look at the left side of the box, with a quick look at the top, and bottom to round off the packaging. For the paint detail on Vegeta, it's okay, and I think that's in part due to my bias with this version of Vegeta's attire. Personally, I don't care for the older style battle clothes as the outfit looks bland. I know that this is meant to be a dated version of the armor that the Frieza Force uses, but it's not the first outfit I default to when I think Vegeta. Not to mention the other glaring issue I have with the figure is the use of the shoulders from the 2.0 Battle Armor Vegeta. As fellow reviewers like Rocco the Great have pointed out, these are way too bulky for the time period. Like, how hard would it have been for Tamashii to use the latent power Trunks' shoulders, or even the ones off the 2.0 Scouter Vegeta? Here you can see him up against the 24,000 Vegeta, where I took the arms off the latent power Trunks and put them on that figure. Yes, the shade of blue is a tad noticeable under certain lighting, but if you wanted to do that mod on this new Vegeta, forget it. You would have to do some serious customization to make this work. I'm really curious how far along they were in the development cycle of this figure when the 24,000 Vegeta came out and they saw the community's reaction to the arms. Did they ever consider changing the shoulders? And much like the 24,000 Vegeta, his chest just looks a little too broad. In one of my news update videos talking about this figure, I mentioned that he looked like a barrel with legs. And bruh, look what they did to our boy. They gave him a dumpy. You better have a CDL to own this figure, or else you're going to get a fine for handling this equipment. But speaking of the chest, we should talk about the figure's gimmick. The interchangeable armor pieces to recreate the battle damaged look of Vegeta after Dende healed him from Krillin getting all up in them guts. I'm technically getting ahead of myself talking accessories, but since there is detail on them, we have to talk about it. Personally, I like the inclusion of interchangeable armor pieces as these give you some customization in the display. I just wish they gave him another chest and back piece for the hole that Frieza's death beam puts through him right before he gives that extremely sad monologue to Goku about how Frieza wouldn't invite him to any of his birthday parties.
You monster frisbee!
The cake was delicious!
These pieces are going to have paint where it matters, like on the skin and tattered jumpsuit, but that's it. And shocker, there's not going to be any kind of shading on the figure either. But just so y'all don't think I'm here to rag on Vegeta, there are some redeeming qualities about the figure. One, he retains the same lower legs used on the 24,000 Vegeta, which I appreciate because it brings his scale down a peg or two. And the head sculpts and faces are amazing. Probably the biggest selling point of the figure, especially with the amount of detail they put into the teeth gritting face with those beads of sweat and veins popping out on his head. And his teared up look truly captures the hopelessness and fear Vegeta had against Frieza. All I can say is, these are some of the best base form heads right up there with the 24,000 Vegeta. Hell, I think I like him a smidge better just for the line work and the sculpt. Here's a little sneak peek at the head swaps to come. I love the way they look on the 24,000 Vegeta. It's so clean, and I think the detail is up there with the unwavering Saiyan Pride Vegeta. But since I'm starting to dive into the accessories a little more, let's go ahead and do the transition. So for the accessories as a whole, Vegeta is going to come with quite a bit as we've already discussed, but for his retail price of $60, he comes with 4 extra faces for a total of 5, 3 extra sets of hands for a total of 4, the battle damaged pieces for the armor, and the new crossed arms piece borrowed from the 24,000 Vegeta. So for the faces we get, a stern face, a shouting face, a teeth gritting face, a face with his eyes closed, and a teary-eyed face. Again, I love the look and detail of these faces. And I'm glad we get a face of him with his eyes closed, because we don't see many faces in the line where the characters have their eyes closed. I think the UI signed Goku and the mastered UI Toyotaro Goku are the only figures in the line with faceplates with the eyes closed. I could be wrong though, y'all have to let me know. Anywho, not including the 2 fisted gum attached, we get 2 splayed out hands, 2 clenched hands, and 2 karate chop hands. Then we have the battle damaged armor pieces. Changing these out doesn't take much effort. Just remove the upper pieces first, then the bottom pieces. And with the new pieces in hand, reassemble in reverse order. It's simple enough, though I do worry how long the firm connection those pieces make will last before they become loose and fall out with much effort. Just something to be mindful of. Lastly, my favorite accessory for Vegeta here recently, and that's the new and improved crossed arms piece. Yes, I know it's a bit strange to like a crossed arms accessory, but y'all have no idea how much easier it is to put this on compared to the old one that attaches at the biceps until you've experienced both. It's quite literally night and day. Now, as far as what's missing, honestly, another faceplate or two, and the upper armor pieces I talked about where they have holes in them from Frieza's death beam. These faceplates, and the hair sculpt for that matter, are fantastic. I just wish we had a cocky face for Vegeta, as during the entire time he was fighting Jeice and Frieza, all he did was boast about him being a Super Saiyan with that shit-eating grin on his face. If he had that, 10 out of 10 on the accessories. Alright, let's get into the articulation here for Vegeta. So, if you've watched my 24,000 power level review, this is going to be the same figure, essentially. Except, no shoulder pads. Vegeta is going to be using the same neck, the same arms, the same legs. Everything about the figure is the same. Even the god-awful articulation and the torso that we'll get to as we move further along into the review. Personally, I think this Vegeta here is a step back, him and the 24,000, to a degree. The 24,000 is better than this, but this Vegeta here is definitely a step back in terms of articulation for Vegeta. So we'll go ahead and get into it and talk more about it. Starting with the head and working our way down, Vegeta is going to be able to look up about yay high and look down about like so. There isn't much range with the head once it sits down on the neck peg, but when you include the neck, you can look up about that high and look down about like so. You do get really good side-to-side movement with this neck joint system because it's a ball and socket system, and it's really good. Any kind of extra side-to-side tilt that you want, you do have to move that ball hinge around, which, it's unfortunate it's a ball hinge, but it is what it is. Moving on to the arms. As I've talked about earlier in the review, I'm not a big fan of these broad shoulders, as they just make him look too big. He's too swole, his chest is too broad. I think if they had slimmed down the chest a little bit and also, used the same arms. Here I'm using the mod with the latent power trunks. I swapped over those arms to this Vegeta, and it's a lot better. So, if those had been slender, I think it would have really helped with the proportions of this figure. But in any case, Vegeta here is going to be able to rotate those around a full 360. He is going to be able to bring those in about like so with the butterfly joint. It's not a great deal of range, but you do some finagling with the double jointed elbows and you can get some poses going. He is able to T-pose out greater than a little bit more than 180 degrees. We do have double jointed elbows, and we have hinges for wrist pegs. They are ball hinges, excuse me. Now, the other thing that I have an issue with this figure is that, yes, these are meant to separate. That's the whole gimmick of the figure, right? But any kind of forcing of the articulation can eventually cause those to separate. So you do have to be mindful of that. And if you do tuck the arms in, like you want to, maybe you think that you could collapse the arms a little bit to make him not look as, broad in the shoulders and chest, that's only going to do so much, and then you can't move these arms down without it, bringing them out. And then it lowers the arm and just, Anywho, that's it for the arms. For the chest, Vegeta is only going to be able to crunch forward like that. That's it. The whole reason he can't crunch any further forward than that is because of the... I don't know why, but it's the way that the system is designed. Let me go ahead and just break them in half real quick, or at least separate them, and I can show you why. And it's this piece right up in here. It's that piece that connects to the chest. That is, or at least the cross member, whatever you want to call it, rubs into the top of this right here. So essentially, you would have to shave this down if you wanted a little bit more range. And I'm not going to do it. But if you wanted to, and you're good at modding your figures, you could probably do it and get away with it, and then that would allow you to get some more crunch. But that is very disappointing. It is what it is. So, Side-to-side tilt is really good. Rotation is really good as well, as far as like rotating the figure, because of the ball and socket system that it has. So it works. Down at the waist, you are going to be able to rotate that a full 360 if you really wanted to. The only issue is that there is no crunch at the waist like there is on, say, this Vegeta. So moving on to the legs, Vegeta is going to be able to kick forward 90 degrees and kick back 90 degrees. It's really good. 180 degrees front and back. The splits are going to be your typical 45 degrees. You're going to have an upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and dumbbells for the ankles. Now, I'm sure some of you are wondering, can you take these feet and put them on to, say, the Battle Armor Vegeta here to get a more accurate Cell Saga or Android Saga Vegeta? The answer is no. You can do it for this foot, but for whatever reason, the peg hole on this is smaller than what is on this here. I don't know why it's designed that way. I guess Tamashii doesn't want you to do it, but if you feel comfortable tapping out the hole a little bit more to make this, fit, well, this fit on this, you're more than welcome to, but that's just very disappointing. Come on, Vegeta. There we go. So yeah, those are the feet. Getting him to rock side to side is fairly good. Tilting down is good, and then tilting up is, yeah. Well, overall, I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of the articulation with the Scouter Vegeta, the 24,000 Vegeta. It was acceptable. Getting Vegeta to pose, but here it's the same thing. But I think the allure of this figure has kind of blinded me a little bit. I think he can crunch a little bit more forward than this, but it's not very good. I don't know why reinvent the wheel if the wheel already worked, especially when, there's all sorts of articulation that you can get here, but it is what it is. Will Vegeta do what you want him to do when articulating? Don't push it. Again, you're going to run into issues of the chest pieces wanting to separate on you because you're trying to force a pose, and then obviously you can't crunch that without doing some modification. So if you're savvy modifying your figures, do it. But as far as I'm concerned, the articulation on this figure is a bit of a dud. So, and what's worse, there's no torso extension, so you can't get more range. So it is what it is. Anywho, let's move on to some head swaps. For the head swaps, we'll be taking a look at what this head sculpt looks like on the following bodies: the 24,000 Vegeta, Majin Vegeta, Awakened Super Saiyan Blood, Unwavering Saiyan Pride, and the Super Saiyan Blue body from Super Broly. I really like the looks of it on the 24,000 Vegeta body, as proportionally it looks better. The Awakened Super Saiyan Blood body is a solid second place for me. It reminds me of that proud Saiyan Prince Vegeta from the Android Saga that Tamashii keeps teasing us with, but not releasing it because reasons. Seriously, can we get a release date on that? But here's what those head sculpts look like on the old style Battle Close Vegeta. I will note that the ball joint is a bit smaller on this body, but most of the heads will fit fine. The ones I ran into trouble with being loose were the 24,000 Vegeta, and though it's not in the lineup here, the Superhero Vegeta. And as you can see, the proportion of this body does make the head sculpts look a little funky, except the 24,000 Vegeta head sculpt. Just a bummer doesn't fit as snug for whatever reason. Anywho, which one was your favorite? For the comparisons, here's Vegeta next to GT Pan, GT Trunks, Bardock, the legendary Super Saiyan Son Goku, and 4th form Frieza. So for my closing thoughts, this is an expensive head sculpt set for 60 USD. As I mentioned beforehand in other videos, and I hope with what I've conveyed here in this review, is that I really only intended to pick this figure up for his head sculpts, because let's face it, There aren't many other options out there for a base form head that look this good if you don't have access to other official figures like the superhero Vegeta figure. The 24,000 Vegeta figure is roughly twice his original price now, and the 2.0 Scatter Vegeta is ungodly expensive. So unless you pick this up at his retail price of $60, he's gonna run you a little more on the aftermarket, in which case you might be better off buying the Tonson Art Toys set. But say you didn't want this figure for the head sculpt. Are there any other redeeming qualities about the figure? Well, yes and no. Yes, it's probably worth it to the 1%ers out there that have to have every single figure from the Namek saga, and he definitely fills out that role. He also has the battle damage pieces that add a little flair if you've got him squaring off against Final Form Frieza, but that's about all he offers. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of this look for Vegeta, and the bulky arms and barrel-like torso are a buzzkill for me. Did I ever think we'd see this version of Vegeta? No, but I'm not surprised either, as we just got Kui last year. Now, Transform Zarbon is coming, heyo, and now we just need Nail and an updated Final Form Frieza. So unless you are that 1%er, I think you can safely pass on this one. And I will add one more thing, and that's you should spend your money how you want. If you like the figure, get it. Do whatever makes you happy. But I feel that I would be disingenuous to y'all if I sat here and hyped this guy up when I know for a fact he's not the greatest thing ever. Again, it's not bad, but it's not great either. It's just okay. But that's going to bring us to the end of the review. I'd like to thank you, the viewer, for making it to the end. If you haven't already, kindly hit the like button and subscribe, as it helps me out and keeps the channel growing. Plus, I've got other reviews up and more to come. I'd also like to know what you think of this Vegeta. Are you like me and dislike how he looks? Or are you in the camp that likes the figure? I'd love to hear it all. But as always, this has been Delete Reviews, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.